On the other hand, home inspectors are not licensed, certified, or have minimum education requirements. So they're not the same as an engineer who can provide an opinion based upon either science or a calculation or something like that. So I like them to spot issues. I'm not so excited about them being the end of the road. I think they're one of the steps towards the end, which might recommend a particular expert address an issue. Also, if you look at their inspection report, right there on the first page, what does it have? And what does the disclaimer say? They're not responsible for their report. Isn't that great? Yeah, so they're good for spotting issues, just know that limitation. They're not the end of the road, they're a path towards the end. Yeah.
Question, what's your professional opinion on whether or not a
My professional opinion sounds like a $350 an hour question.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think? What would you say about a buyer's agent being with their buyers at the home inspection? I mean, how do you feel about
What do you
that
think?
interaction?
It always
What do I think of a buyer being at the home inspection?
No,
agent.
Well, the agent being
the buyer's agent, I mean, I like to go there, but then I...
The question is, what do you think of the buyer's agent being at the home inspection? Correct?
with the buyer and
Yeah,
the
with the
inspection.
buyer. I've heard two sides. I'm always there with
Yep.
them.
What are the two sides?
The one side is if you see it, then you can be liable for it. And the other side is if
it's
you don't
true.
see it, you can be liable.
Didn't I start out my lecture with this?
We
But
go to,
you didn't see it, it didn't happen.
there are senior classes that teach us not to go to the inspections. There are continuing.
There are classes that teach you not to go to the inspection. Why? Do they explain that?
They said we would be liable.
A lot of times that's also referring to the seller's agent not going, not the buyer's agent. But it's
I'm much more interested in why there is a recommendation as opposed to what the
because
recommendation
we
is.
interfere.
Well, that's a good reason. I mean, if you're a pain in the ass, talk, getting in everybody's way, that's a good reason not to let you in the room. But what did I start out by saying? Under the red flag doctrine, you have an obligation to conduct a reasonable inspection. So I don't know if you go by yourself, you take your mom, an inspector, whoever. If you miss an issue, you missed an issue. That's your liability. But the way the law works, it's not as if that there's some sort of magic step. And if you could only know what that magic step was, you'd be safe. Your most important risk reduction tool is right here, between your ears. You gotta be able to think, guys. It's not guessing. Oh, if I just do this one thing, then I'll be okay. Or if I avoid this other thing, then I'll be okay. If you think the process through, that is, spot the issue, make a proper recommendation, make sure that your client is engaged and directing your behavior, as opposed to you making all those choices under the instruction of his or her attorney or engineer, whoever it is, then you're much more likely to be on the right track. Then you're not guessing. Otherwise, you're just guessing and hoping it comes out okay. Okay, there's a question here and then back there. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what does reasonable mean? I mean, I understand going and looking and trying to find, but where does reasonable end and others go forward and then
Look at your next handout. This is your obligations under the law, your duties as an agent. And I will begin by saying that agency law is amongst the most difficult areas of the law to understand. Most attorneys get it wrong. Agency law, warning you right now, up front, it is not easy. But on the other hand, I got your roadmap. You are responsible under the law as a fiduciary. That's a 5-syllable word that's kind of opaque for many of us. What is a fiduciary? Brother Dan. Right back here. Mr. Clement. Fiduciary. If you're a fiduciary, what are you? And everybody in this room is one.
we're thinking in terms of the responsibility of fiduciaries beyond that of the average responsibility.
Yes,
You have
it
a
is.
higher degree of responsibility.
It's above average. Everyone here is slightly above average. In a woe-begone sort of way. Actually, you're way above average. A fiduciary duty is the highest duty recognized in the law. There is no higher. It's the same level of duty that was imposed upon the Bishop Estate trustees. You guys remember that? Big controversy. These were 5 people, 4 men, 1 woman, who had the job. Who had the job you got if you were really, really good. If you were really good. For 80 years, the Republicans had it. And then for 50 years, the Democrats had it. But this is the job you got if you were really, really good. You led the world's largest charitable trust. It's now called Kamehameha Schools. It was at that time called the Bishop Estate that supported the Kamehameha Schools. They've now rebranded it. Those trustees were all fiduciaries. All 5 were removed. Their cases went up to the Supreme Court. It's not in Randy's book, but their cases went up to the Supreme Court. What happened to their cases at the Supreme Court level?
They lost.
They didn't lose. No wrongdoing found.
But no more money afterwards.
No more money. And they were already removed. The perception of wrongdoing was sufficient to remove them. That's your duty. You just got to look like you're not doing your job. And that's enough. So what's reasonable? Reasonable is what most real estate licensees would do, given the circumstances and facts that you were presented with in your case at this time. It's the definition of reasonable. What most real estate licensees would do when faced with a similar fact situation in this community at this time. So 25 years ago, when we had a 1-page DROA, we practiced at a different level. On Kauai, right now, I tell you, it's a different type of practice than here on East Oahu. In fact, I don't have to go Kauai. I just go to Eva Beach. It's a different practice. Yeah, different neighborhood. So reasonable is a flexible measure that the law imposes based upon the facts and circumstances at the time. What it will be tomorrow, I can tell you it's going to be tougher. It's not going to get easier. We're becoming more and more litigious. So learn what we're talking about today, you'll be ready. Because the guys that aren't going through the 4 steps or don't understand their fiduciary duty are going to be at a disadvantage. Okay, in addition to knowing that it's more than other things, in your words, what is a fiduciary?
Well, you have to be, you represent them, like, you have to be, what all the things, you have to be obedient to them.
Obedient!
Yes, right?
Yeah, what does that mean?
You have to do what they tell you to do. If-
That's right.
Unless it's.
They're the boss. So, I'm your client. And this is what I tell you. I am going to be bankrupt in 30 days. I need this sale. The roof leaks. You cannot disclose that. Sorry.
So you would get someone else.
Why? Don't you have a duty to obey?
Spotted an issue.
You know, if it's against the law or.
Don't you have a duty for loyalty? Don't you have a duty of confidentiality? This is information that would hurt me. Don't you have a duty to keep that
It's
secret?
against our code of ethics.
Okay, ethics. What does that mean? Is that law? What my point is, when you think about this, it is harder than our casual, superficial understanding of fiduciary duty. Obey. You must obey. What? You have a duty of obedience to your client. You have a duty to the law. What is that?
I mean, you have to obey the law, you can't break the law. I mean, your client's wishes don't trump the law.
Really?
You can't.
I just explained that there is no higher duty in the law
But you
than
can't find
fiduciary.
material